Daredevil is back for an all-new Disney Plus series, Daredevil Born Again. So today, let's talk about all 9 episodes. Matt Murdock finds himself on a collision course with Wilson Fisk when their past identities begin to emerge. I was really looking forward to Daredevil Born Again. I really like the Netflix series, and I think Daredevil is a really interesting Marvel character. And I think Charlie Cox is amazing as Matt Murdock, and Vincent D'Onofrio is great as Wilson Fisk. And I was very curious, how could you take such a gritty Netflix series and put it into the MCU on Disney Plus? And luckily, it doesn't lose its grit, its humanity. It is brutal. It is one of the best Disney Plus MCU shows. Now, it's not without its faults, but it is such an interesting watch, as we see in the trailer that Matt Murdock, Daredevil, is putting his vigilante days behind him. He wants the police now to intervene and handle things, and Vincent D'Onofrio as Wilson Fisk is reinventing himself as the mayor of New York City. These characters are born again. They have new identities. They have new purpose throughout the whole series. We see much more of a focus of Matt Murdock as a lawyer taking on these high profile cases. And what's so interesting about these 9 episodes is how they're able to craft these storylines that feel very personal to Fisk and Murdock, as we see them struggling with holding on to their new position, and that past identity of Kingpin and Daredevil slowly starting to push its way through. And by slowing back on some of the violence and the grit to the show, we were able to focus more on the personality of Murdock and Fisk, really fleshing these characters out, going deeper into who they are and what is making them tick and what is trying to have these past identities come out. And so we see Murdock written in a way that he is challenged. He takes on these high profile cases. People are against him constantly throughout the show, but we see that humanity come out for Murdock. We see the loyalty that he has for these high profile cases. And so while it's delivering less violence and action, in turn, it's giving us a deeper look at Murdock and Fisk. And what's so interesting about Fisk this time around is you feel like he's trying to turn this new leaf, but on the same hand, there's that version of Kingpin that's like at the forefront of everything. And so while you may think that he's trying his best to be the mayor of New York City, you start to question some of his choices along the way. And Vincent D'Onofrio and Charlie Cox step back into the roles with ease. They feel like no time has passed. You don't feel like there's that big change from Netflix to Disney Plus. They still deliver really good performance. Vincent D'Onofrio is still very intimidating as Wilson Fisk. When he was Kingpin, he was ruthless, violent, and you still kind of feel that within this series, but it's much more of how he can be manipulative and controlling throughout the series. And Charlie Cox, he's trying his best to hold back on being this vigilante, but things are really pushing him to the limit. When it does come to the action, we have like the first 15 minutes is very brutal and intense, but there is enough action and grit sprinkled throughout the series to give it that edge and have some intense, very brutal action set within the MCU. So it's nice to revisit Hell's Kitchen and have a lot of that action. And Daredevil going all in with the action and the violence, it really separates itself from other MCU shows. And there is mention of other MCU characters, so you're starting to feel like they are connecting Daredevil in more ways than one. We've seen it in She-Hulk, we saw it in No Way Home, but there is much more of a connection this time around. The momentum that this series is building, season 2 is where it's going to have more of that action and more of that edge to really kind of push itself and push those boundaries. The series still looks really great. It doesn't really feel so much like a Disney Plus MCU show. It has that darker feel to it. It understands its atmosphere in Hell's Kitchen with a lot of violent sequences. The direction, the color grading, the costumes, everything from the minor characters, the minor villains in here, it feels very separated from Miss Marvel and She-Hulk and WandaVision and Loki. This is much more of a violent, grounded approach for a character set in the MCU, and I'm so glad that we are at this point where they can take these risks and understand that they just can't do the same flashy PG-13 Marvel films. They want to venture into newer, more mature projects. And so we had with Deadpool and Wolverine, while that wasn't super mature, it pushed that boundary of having that R rating, and I'm so glad that we are here with Daredevil now. There are going to be things that shock you right off the bat, but the writing is very tight and it is focused on that development of characters rather than focusing on the grit and the violence throughout. It's there, but this is much more of a character development for Matt in trying to not be a vigilante, struggling to keep hold of that position of being this lawyer and not venturing back into his old ways. And the same thing for Fisk being this mayor. He's trying his hardest not to be the kingpin, and things are just not going each other's way. Real quick, if you're interested in checking out Daredevil Born Again, make sure to give this video a thumbs up. And if you have seen the show, comment down below with your overall thoughts on the series. And if you'd like to see more exclusive content from me coming in 2025, consider joining my channel as a member, and there you can unlock exclusive movie views and ranking videos. Well, I thought Daredevil Born Again was amazing and definitely worth your watch. It loses its edge in that middle half. The initial setup seemed like it was going to be that Netflix series and focus so much on the violence. And episode 8 and 9 is kind of where they start to ramp things up again. It's where that middle half is where it starts to lose its edge. And like I did say, I really love that development of character for Murdock and Fisk. I wanted a little more action, that brutality that separates Daredevil from other MCU characters, and his time on Netflix as well. It felt very different. And certain villains that they introduced, they seem like they don't have the strongest development. Like you feel their presence, you feel they are very intimidating, ruthless characters, but they just don't have that chance to fully shine in here. There's a couple different villains in here that challenge Matt Murdock as a character, but it's really few and far between with how they are developed. Sometimes they are introduced and then they are forgot about, and then they try to quickly ramp up some storyline to complete it all. Or other times they're really just cut short. And so I think with the 9 episodes, they kind of drew things out to really where it felt very thin for certain story arcs in the show. But like I said, I like the development for Matt Murdock and Wilson Fisk, and the overall violence is there. The direction is great. It just, that middle half seems like it starts to slow down. And we've seen that so many times with MCU shows where they have a very promising first couple episodes and the end starts to be great as well. It's that middle half is where it loses a lot of the audience. And people who watch all these shows start to check out within the middle half, and then they hope that the remaining episodes can be very good. And while Daredevil Born Again doesn't lose itself entirely, that edge is lost, that grit is lost in the middle half of the show, and they start to pick it up again. But on the other hand, I understood why it lost its edge, because they wanted to really challenge Matt and not be that vigilante again. And so the writing is great on a development level. I just wanted a little more action along the way. I'm gonna go ahead and give Daredevil Born Again a B+. Thank you guys for checking my review for Daredevil Born Again, the new MCU series. Have you guys seen it by chance? What do you think about it? Let me know in the comment section down below, and stay tuned for more up and coming content like this. My name is Just Watches Movies, and you guys stay classy, YouTube.